All right, we are live. Kansas State has just won the Big 12 championship, 31-28 in overtime. Let the debates begin.
There's no debates.
Culver's postgame. Dunaway says, all right, show's over. There's no reason to do this. We've got no debate. He is Jim Dunaway. He is Lance Taylor. Thank you for joining us. ACC championship game about to kick off. Troy is up early in the Sun Belt championship, but TCU finally loses a game. We've been waiting on this moment for TCU to lose a game. Dunaway, I'll start with you. Before we get to the argument, what a heck of a game.
It was a great football game. It's been a great season for TCU. K-State wins the championship. My first reaction is we're about to play a 4-team playoff for a national championship. We've had it with even Alabama before with a one non-conference champion in there. Half the field is about to be non-conference champions. We could have a national championship game technically between two teams that did not win their conference. That's something we'll have in the future with a 12-team playoff, but that could be very odd. TCU will be in. They were close. I texted LT. I think you were on it, Brown, on the muff punt. It was about to unravel for TCU, 21-10, and K-State was about to run them out of the building. And that muff punt changed everything, probably changed everything for Alabama, too. No way TCU gets left out of this thing.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I do think it was on its way to 35-10. And I think at 35-10, it was going to be tough on the committee to put in a team that survived so many games this year. They've had an incredible season. Max Duggan had a great performance down the stretch there, unable to get the win. And what's interesting, guys, think about this. Ohio State's in coming off a loss. TCU is in coming off a loss. There's a possibility Georgia and Michigan could both lose, and you would have 4 teams rolling into this college football playoff coming off a loss. That's impossible.
No, none of which would be conference champions.
Yeah,
right. That's exactly right.
Yeah, you would have 4 non-conference champions in this playoff. That would be wild. Real quick, let's pause for a second before.
Wait, is Dunaway not going to see the sunset? Are you drinking bourbon already?
I did start drinking bourbon after the muff punt, and so this is number 2. Of the I'm hitting Wellers today, little Wellers.
Hey,
wow.
So let's can't hide it, can you, Lance? Can't hide it. Let's talk about this real quick before we get to everything else. 2 years from now in a 12-team playoff, what a day that was for Kansas State, by the way. TCU would have been playing for a first-round bye. Kansas State would have been playing for their life to get in. We would have probably seen a game just like that one, except it was everything for Kansas State and just a slight punishment for TCU. That's what we'll get with a 12-team playoff right now.
Yeah, and again, these next 2 games, I'm not excited. The roommates, excited about watching Georgia, but this game means absolutely nothing. And then tonight it means nothing. If we had the 12-team playoff, Purdue and LSU would be both playing for their playoff lives. So it would just make it that much more exciting.
Yeah, the last meaningful game of the day is about to kick, the UCF Tulane game. That's just to get somebody to a New Year's Six bowl game and a championship trophy. But hats off to the Pac-12 and the Big 12. I can't remember the last time that their conference championship games meant this much. I know last year it kept, Oklahoma State out or Baylor, whoever it kept out of the playoffs by that one play at the goal line. That was exciting, but it did not feel like the last 2 nights how important those 2 championship games were in front of packed houses. Pac-12 finally played a championship game in front of a packed house. I thought it was really entertaining football the last 2 games.
Michael says, Dunaway, put on a Purdue shirt, please.
Yeah, well, I don't understand the people that think Michigan is out if Purdue wins or Ohio State's going to somehow slip back behind Alabama if Michigan loses that game. There's just no way.
I don't know what happened to Lance here, but we're going to have to do that and that. All right. Hey, Lance, welcome back in.
I agree with Dunaway. I think there is 0 chance that Alabama gets in. And I honestly, we said this all week. Alabama doesn't deserve to. I said this morning when we were doing the pregame that if they lost by 14 plus, you could start to have that debate. And when, as you said, Dunaway, when it was 21-10, they had just held. They were getting the ball back around midfield. I truly think they were going to win that game going away. And then I think Alabama's probably getting in.
Yeah. And I agree. I agree 100% with that. And another thing happened after that muff punt, LT. Until the muff punt, I really believed Caleb Williams was your Heisman Trophy winner. After the muff punt, it's up in the air now, and I don't even know. I don't know if I would go Duggan or Caleb Williams.
We're a instant gratification, immediate reaction society.
Those guys aren't even close.
I don't disagree with you, but that Duggan drive to force overtime was an incredible drive.
Incredible. And look, I've been a Duggan fan the last couple of years. I was surprised he didn't beat Chandler Morris out to start the season. Although he never put up big numbers, and he didn't put up big numbers today, really. It's just how tough he is, how he plays. He makes incredible plays with his legs. I mean, there's nothing flashy about him. He's such a gutsy guy. I think he'll end up being the runner-up. I think it's Caleb Williams, Duggan, and, I don't even know who else would be in the running.
Yep. Weird comment by Jeff Oswalt-Morris. In fairness, the next round guys also predicted Kiffin to Auburn and Fritz to Georgia Tech. Let's go easy on the guarantees, guys. Jeff wants us.
I didn't predict either one of those.
Jeff wants us to do 4 hours and not talk about coaching searches and who we think might get the job. It's going to be a weird show if we do that, but okay.
Yeah, I mean, for the record, LT never thought Kiffin, even when we were saying, LT, you've got to come off of this. Kiffin is going to be the next coach at Auburn. He's like, I just don't think he will. I still think it's Hugh Freeze. Lance never, ever wobbled off of Hugh Freeze from the get-go just because he's weighted down by Brown and me who have active cell phones. Do not put that one on LT. He never thought Lane Kiffin was going to Auburn.
Yep.
What was the other one he thinks we missed?
Willie Fritz. Actually, I said Bill O'Brien was the lead candidate. It looked like the reports were in the AJC Willie Fritz was getting the job, but it's going to be.
But I will guarantee this: TCU is going to the college football playoff.
Okay. Chad says the landmine now may be stronger than the 2016 election. Riley says godlike landmine powers. I mean, my gosh, Dunaway, you're getting all kinds of praise for this.
Well, I mean, he didn't do any good though, and
well,
I mean,
still,
a TCU landmine, it was 3 points. I don't know how I can make them lose by more. I didn't know how to address that part.
I'll tell you what you did though. You have now TCU's going to get in this thing, but they're going to drop to the 4 seed.
And that's bad news for them.
It is.
Yep.
And, talking to Charlie Vitella, our good buddy that's a big Michigan fan, he said the only team I don't want is Ohio State. And I don't blame him. I mean, you just went into Columbus, you whipped them in the fourth quarter, you completely dominated, and now you're going to get stuck playing them in a semifinal. And I just don't see, and maybe they'll beat them twice in a year, but I don't see them beating Ohio State twice in a month. I just don't see it.
So right now, we would say we've probably got Georgia, Ohio State. This is the way I would think, or Georgia, TCU, excuse me. Georgia, TCU, and Atlanta, assuming they both win, and Michigan, Ohio State, and Phoenix.
Yep.
I just do not think they will pair up two. This is going to sound weird. They are going to put Georgia and Ohio State, and Ohio State's a better team. Ohio State may be the best team in the country or second best team in the country, but they are going to be the 4 seed, much like Alabama was that year. And remember when Alabama played Clemson and Alabama was the favorite as the 4 seed?
Yep.
And Clemson was the 1 seed. That's about to happen to Georgia. I don't think Georgia will lose the game, but it'll be Georgia, Ohio State. It'll be Michigan and TCU.
I disagree. Brown, what do you think? I think the committee punishes TCU a little bit.
I don't.
I think they'll drop them to 4. I do. I don't know. It's weird. We're in a weird spot right here because normally you would drop them after a loss, but you're already dropping USC out. So you're really going to say Ohio State not playing is going to jump 2 spots. I mean, it's a weird spot they're in, and everybody gushes like you heard the end of that telecast there. Herb Street and Fowler gushing over their resume. I think we downplayed the resume a little bit, but everybody gushes over how many top 25 teams that TCU has played.
And let me quote the great American laureate, Les Miles. They are undefeated in regulation.
Yeah. I mean, it really is hard to punish a team.
I needed a bigger laugh than that, Brown. Come on.
But what'd you call him? A poet laureate?
The American laureate.
Laureate?
Yeah.
It really is hard to punish a team that much for a loss to a top 10 team in overtime in a conference championship game.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's so much as punishment. I just think it's manipulation because I think they want – what they don't want is Duke, North Carolina, well, I say that we got that in the semifinals.
Yeah.
I don't think they want an all Big Ten championship game.
Well, they had an all SEC one last year. I don't think they wanted that either, but that's the way it worked out. If you separate them and if they both win, people will say, hey, they were the 2 best teams. They got to play each other again.
Yeah.
If you pair them up, people were like, oh, do we want to see the Big Ten championship game again in the semifinals? If they go win their games, then they're in the championship again.
But I think if Georgia's the number 1 seed, I think they deserve to play TCU. I mean, if I'm Georgia, I don't want to play Ohio State first. I'd rather play TCU.
I don't either. But Ohio State's going to be the 4 seed, and TCU is going to be the 3 seed. And so the only other way you avoid that is if you flip Michigan over Georgia.
And here's the difference: Georgia will be a 6-point favorite over Ohio State. I think they'll be close to a 20-point favorite over TCU.
Yeah, and I don't disagree. I don't disagree with that. And a lot of people are saying, like, well, here's Nick, our buddy Nick Johnston RV. Hypothetically, what would be the line for TCU Bama? Does the playoff committee consider that at all? I don't think they consider it at all. I mean, what would be? You just gave Georgia 20 points over TCU, or gave TCU 20 points. What would the Bama be?
Yeah, I was asked 3 different numbers today, and one of those was TCU and Bama. I think Bama would be a solid 10-point favorite.
Yeah. No, they don't.
No, excuse me. I think they'd be 13 to 14.
Yeah, they don't consider that. And one reason they don't consider that is because, I mean, Alabama was a favorite over Tennessee and LSU, lost both those games. Tennessee was a favorite over South Carolina, lost that game. Ohio State was a favorite over Michigan, lost that game. Southern Cal was a favorite last night over Utah, lost that game. You can't go by point spreads. I know that's what Vegas says they mean is the better team, but it doesn't always play that way. So
yeah, I mean, if you guys were on the committee, who would you put in? I would put TCU in. I would.
I think I would. Yeah. I would have to hold my nose to put Ohio State in.
Got to have a 4th.
I mean, somebody's got to be in there, right? I don't want to put them in. I don't want to put.
But is there a possibility? Because you brought this up when you and I were doing the show this morning, Dunaway. Brown, you were listening, and one of our viewers/listeners brought up Clemson. Now, I don't think Clemson's deserving, but if they win tonight going away, a 2-loss ACC champion, is that better than a team in Ohio State? Is there a possibility?
I don't think so, and I agree with what Troy put in the chat just now. It'll be Georgia, Michigan, TCU, Ohio State. I really believe that, and yes, Georgia will be playing the more tougher schedule, just like Alabama did, like Clemson had to do when they played in the Sugar Bowl in the semifinals that year. That's the way it'll be. I would almost bet LT's left nut that Brown currently owns on that.
Now, another thing to look at, if Georgia struggled with LSU, Michigan blows out Purdue, they could flip Michigan and Georgia.
They could, and that would solve a lot of things then.
Yeah, I thought they might actually do that coming off Michigan's win over Ohio State.
Yeah, I did too.
I don't view, maybe it's just me. I prefer a Southern team win it just because I'm a Southern boy. But if it's Michigan, Ohio State for the national championship, that's not that unattractive to me.
Yeah, I mean, it was at times they look like the 2 best teams. And to your point, Brown, even if they flip Michigan to 1, Ohio, then you're going to put TCU to 4, and you're still Georgia. You're still going to have the same matchups. I think. Yeah. I think they would manipulate the bottom half at that point to still have the same Georgia, Ohio State, TCU, Michigan matchup.
Yeah. 17 million people watched that Ohio State Michigan game in the regular season. You can't tell me it wouldn't be a massive TV audience if they played for the national championship. So
what do you assume? A 5 million bump, about 22 million?
Yeah, it wouldn't blow me away. 22 million. Some of that depends on how good the game is. But 17 million is about what watched the championship game last year. The national championship game, Alabama and Georgia. That's what watched the regular season Ohio State Michigan game. So I think you'd get a massive TV audience for that. So I don't think they'll be that scared of that. I don't think they'll have to think this through of, do we need to pair up Ohio State, Michigan, or keep them separate? I think they're like, if they meet for the championship, they meet for the championship. So that's it. Clint says, what happens if Purdue wins? They have upset a few top 5 teams in the past. I think it only drops Michigan. I don't think it drops them out. I think it just makes you try to determine how to sort this thing out. And I do believe you would have to keep Michigan in front of Ohio State. So it might actually bump TCU even with a loss up to the 2 seed.
Yeah, at that point, to me, if Purdue won and Georgia won, it would be Georgia, TCU, Michigan, Ohio State. Or maybe it would just stay the same. Maybe they would say Michigan has the best win. Michigan stays 2 regardless. TCU stays 3, and Ohio State is 4. Maybe that's what they do because TCU lost 2. So a close loss by Michigan, likely no change. They'll stay 2.
Yep. No, I agree. I think if Michigan loses to Purdue, you don't see any change. If both those teams lose, you don't see any change.
I don't think we have any drama tomorrow at all outside of the seeding. And I was pulling for chaos. So I kind of wanted, when Kansas State got control, I wanted them to win by that 14-plus margin just to see what would happen.
And I agree with what you guys are saying. If not for that muff punt, that we were headed that way.
We were.
That game was getting away. TCU was on the ropes. That game was getting away from them. Kansas State had all the momentum. I felt like Dunaway, they were going to fill that punt and put a vintage Kansas State 6-minute drive together for a touchdown. That game was over.
I agree 100%. They just had all the momentum, and TCU was lost offensively, absolutely lost. And it was going to be a blowout. And then the pressure was going to be on the committee. It still was not, even if it was 35-10, like LT said, it was not going to be a very popular thing for Alabama to jump TCU because they weren't playing today. But that's where the conversation was going to start. And once they got it close again, and I'll be honest, I texted you guys, when Sonny Dykes played for the field goal there to cut it to 28-20, I thought at that point he was playing margin of defeat. And trying to manage his way into the playoffs. And it worked out like it was a brilliant call because he got the touchdown, he got the 2-point conversion, and got to overtime. But I thought he was managing the margin of defeat at that point to get points on the board and still make it into the playoffs. So, smart move by Sonny all the way. He doesn't have a trophy yet, but it's been a hell of a year for him.
Yeah, I'll tell you, he did bitch and complain a lot in the fourth quarter, though. It just seems like he was on the ref's ass nonstop. I wouldn't have blamed him at all for playing clock game and kicking that field goal just for margin of victory. But as impressive as that Duggan drive was to tie the thing up, that goal line stand by Kansas State was amazing.
Yep, incredible. Tripp says Kansas State's basically Iowa with better scheme and coaching.
And better quarterback play.
And
an explosive player in Deuce Vaughn. I mean, just a much better offense.
Yeah. Well, for two things on that. First of all, Dunaway, Chris Kleiman's a heck of a football coach. That guy can coach football.
He can. And I'll be honest, I've watched the two games the last two nights, and I've been envious of the way Utah plays defense. And I've just been envious a little bit of the way, Kleiman has all of his guys who look like it looks like you're watching your local high school team when you look at the athletes on the field. I mean, even their best, most talented player, Deuce Vaughn, is 5'6", and they're just so fundamentally good at what they do. But that Utah defense last night was impressive as heck. They looked like you were watching coaching videos when they would make tackle or would fill gaps or get into coverage. They were so well coached on defense. And then today, TCU just, Chris Kleiman continues to amaze me.
Oh, I think Utah would be troublesome if they would have gotten in the playoff, and they've got to kick themselves. And we talked about it this morning. That loss to Florida, just inexcusable. The play by Cameron Rising down the stretch, and then them blowing that fourth quarter lead against Oregon. They win those two games, they're in.
Jason asked this. I mean, let's do this because I think I know what we're all going to say, and it moved on me. There it is. Jason, guys, do you think Bama is better than TCU? Absolutely, I do. I think Bama's a better team. I think if Alabama and TCU played on a neutral site, Alabama wins the game. But that's not how this committee approaches that. If they approach that, they wouldn't have any criteria. They would just say, we're going to go by the eye test, but they've got criteria they've got to go by.
Yeah, so, I think Bama would win this game by 14 to 21 points. I do
too. Yeah. Dunaway?
Oh, I agree with you 100%. I didn't feel like I needed to say it. I thought my expression said it all. Here you go again.
Hey, guess who's out back right now?
Lady Bird.
The leaf blower.
We are live.
It waits to kick an SEC championship game to fire it up.
Well, I think they've set their alerts, Brownie, and they know when we're live.
I hope you gave us a thumbs up too. Give us a thumbs up on YouTube. Set your alerts like LT's neighbor, so you know when we're live and you can start leaf blowing. That is incredible, by the way. And make sure you've subscribed, retweet us, like us, share us wherever you're watching us. Thank you to Culver's, 119, 280 in Tattersall Park. Also, Stadium Trace, 459 near the Hoover Mat. Culver's, welcome to Delicious. Also, Next Round Cocktails, drinknextround.com. You see behind Dunaway there over his right shoulder. The Rosé Sangria, the Salted Lime Margarita, drinknextround.com, drinknextround.com. What is that? Oh, that's your Alabama National Championship ball?
One of them.
Michael says it's supposed to be the best four teams, exclamation. I know it is. But again, I'll say, they developed criteria to determine who those teams are. They don't just say, we're going to go in a room, we're going to watch every game, and we're going to go by the eye test, and I think these are the four best teams. They've got criteria. And when you have criteria, you have to consider those criteria or it's useless, right? And part of their criteria is wins and losses and strength of schedule and conference championships. You can't I get it. I get what everybody's saying, and I agree with you. I think Alabama is the better team than TCU. I'm just trying to sit here and tell you what I think the committee will do, because the committee has certain criteria they go by.
Yeah, and a couple of things. Alabama didn't have great wins this year.
No.
The SEC was down this year. And Alabama's best win was in Austin against Texas. Well, guess what? TCU beat Texas in Austin. Yeah. And you got to reward an undefeated regular season Power 5 when you beat 4 top 25 teams. Again, I think we all agree that Alabama would win this game going away, but they're not getting in now.
Lunsford says, to be fair, putting them in a room, watching the games and picking the 4 best is probably the better way to do it. I agree completely with Lunsford.
Well, I mean, you've got to count some results, right? I mean, you can't – I mean, they did lose 2 games. I mean, they are a stop of a 2-point conversion away from this not even being a discussion today in Baton Rouge. They are, a stop on a long pass play down the middle before going to overtime in Knoxville. Maybe this not even being in discussion today. You make one of those plays along the way, and you don't have to sit here and beg for crumbs.
If you make one of those plays along the way, though, they're playing on this screen right here to my left right now.
That's right. And
possibly and that's what changes everything. I mean, that's why the committee has criteria, because they look at that Dunaway and they say, well, if Alabama made those plays, they're playing Georgia right now, then they could be a 2-loss team. I don't know. Maybe they're in at that point. I don't know. Riley wants you to eliminate the human element.
So if we had the old BCS rankings, where do you think we'd end up right now? I haven't even looked at that.
Going into this weekend's game, it was USC that was the team out. It was Georgia, Michigan, TCU, Ohio State, USC, Alabama. That was your top 6.
Yeah.
So how much would that change? Obviously, SC moves back. It wouldn't have mattered. Does TCU move that much further back, losing to Kansas State?
Yeah, I mean, every year I will say this, and I think I'm 100% accurate, but it's never stopped me from saying things in the past, so I'll say it anyway. I think every year the old BCS has lined up with the final rankings of the college football playoffs.
Yeah.
At least not in the seeding, but the 4 teams. The 4 teams have been exactly the top 4 teams of the old BCS. So when we get it tomorrow afternoon, or whenever they put it out, tonight or tomorrow morning, the BCS, what the BCS would look like, those 4 teams will be the 4 teams in. I don't think we've wavered from that ever.
Yeah.
So, but the biggest shit the bed moment was South Carolina beating Tennessee. I mean, Tennessee would 100% be in this thing.
Easy. They're not even number 4. I mean, Tennessee would not even be the 4th team in right now if they had beaten South Carolina.
Yeah, they'd be 3.
Yeah.
They'd be 3, and as Dabo says, at home flipping burgers.
At home flipping burgers, they would be a 3, looking forward to going to Phoenix to play Michigan. And I would really, with a healthy Hendon Hooker, that's the other aspect here, I would really like them over Michigan.
Well, the irony of Joe Milton playing his former team too would be really cool.
That's true. That would be interesting. You're
right. Hey, just off the wall here, okay? Do you guys think we need to have to start scheduling 3rd place games in conference championships? Because we are getting to a point. When we have a 12-team field, will there be people sitting at home not playing in their conference championship game that are easily in, and teams that are playing that could be knocked out? Do we need to make everybody who has the chance to be in the 12 be playing games today? Like 3rd place games like they used to do in the old NIT and some tournaments?
So like this morning, Alabama and Tennessee played in Nashville.
Yeah.
And now we've got LSU and Georgia playing in Atlanta.
Yeah, maybe so. I mean, I don't know. When you talk about fairness, I mean, Alabama and Tennessee sitting at home, if this was a 12-team playoff, and LSU having to play today to win to be in, maybe, or just pick a conference. As we move forward, I mean, we'll never do it, but it just seems like it's going to be odd if we can. And I'm not sure we will continue with conference championship games down the road, but if we do, it does seem weird. I've got to go play, even if I'm playing just for seeding, while some teams are not risking injury and are sitting at home and probably not risking their seating position either. It is going to seem weird.
Yeah, I think this is going to be the year, now that we know we're getting that 12-team playoff in a couple of years, that they're really going to reevaluate these conference championship games, because without playing last night, I'm not saying they deserve to get in. SC's in.
Yeah, you're right.
And by playing, they're out. And Ohio State sitting at home, they're in. And I think there's a better chance of not having a conference championship game than having that 3rd place game.
Thaddeus says, I will not be home flipping burgers. I'll be at Culver's eating a butter burger and cheese curd, supporting the show. Thank you, Thaddeus. An excellent choice, buddy.
Actually, what I had for lunch, I had the butter burger double, had French fries, and a little thing I like to call a salted caramel shake.
Yes, sir. Tattersall Park, 28119. Also, Stadium Trace out near the Hoover Met. Culver's. Welcome to Delicious. Next Round Cocktails, drinknextround.com, drinknextround.com.
I was trying to get my bearings back after having, what was it? Ended up being 3 mimosas. I started the day off like I was a bridesmaid.
Jason says, guys, you're right. Playing the SEC championship in the top 12 playoff hurts. I think it does. I agree with you. So for instance, Georgia has 0 to gain in a 12-team playoff right now in this game. Absolutely nothing to gain. All they could do is lose a key player and potentially lose a first-round bye. Nothing to gain in this game. Now, Georgia currently has nothing to gain in this game in a 4-team playoff, so that's not really going to change, but it's true in a 4-team or a 12-team. There's nothing for Georgia to gain. But in a 12-team playoff, there's 0 chance of Georgia missing the postseason here.
Yeah. So, if Stetson Bennett went down tonight.
Right.
Yep. Shatters his leg. Blake Corum's already out for Michigan, but if they lost J.J. McCarthy, shatters his hip muscle. All of a sudden, those 2 quarterbacks are out. Both of those are already in, but it's changed the course of the playoffs by them having to play an extra game, and Ohio State, sitting at home, slides into the playoffs. There's something to be discussed about down the road playing these games.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. I don't disagree with that at all. Sean says, could you decline an invite to the conference championship game like it's a bowl game? It's like, no, we're not going to do it, man. Let Missouri go. They've never done it. Nor they have, actually. Let Ole Miss go. They've never done it. Michael says, I'd play back up if I was Georgia. We see that sometimes in the NFL in meaningless games. I don't know.
Yep.
By the way, Landmine Believer points out what we'll get to eventually. Imagine the debate 2 years from now between Kansas State and Utah for that last bye. Actually, Kansas State as a conference champion would get in.
Yeah.
If they were one of the 4 highest rated conference champions. I mean, you play that out right now, Brown. It would be if Georgia, Michigan wins, Georgia, Michigan. The next conference champion, the highest rated one will be who? Maybe do they slide ahead of UNC Clemson?
Clemson tonight. Yeah, Clemson tonight. I don't know. It depends on where they would put Kansas State. Yeah.
Yep.
Did LSU just go up?
There's a chance. There's a chance Utah and Kansas State all got byes.
There's a flag on the play, Lance.
No, I guess it was just pass center.
Yeah, it was pass interference.
Hey, but we had John Summerall on the show earlier, and Troy is, whipping Coastal right now.
It's 24-0, and Coastal started Grayson McCall. Troy's not doing this to a backup. Grayson McCall started for Coastal, and they are barely into the second quarter, and it is already 24-0. We like John Summerall. Boy, good for him if he can get this home and win a conference championship, a Sun Belt championship. Tulane in the best uniform they own. I don't know if you guys are watching that. That should be Tulane's permanent uni. They're up 7-0 on Central Florida. And LSU is on the move inside the red zone against Georgia. Let's just have some chaos, man. LSU and Purdue, why not? Let's just get some chaos in this thing.
I agree. I never thought we'd be doing a live show opposite of the SEC championship game.
I know.
But here we are.
Come to.
Yep.
We used to do this post-game, Dunaway, me and you standing somewhere inside Mercedes-Benz Stadium doing this post-game.
It's been a weird year, man.
It has been. It has been. All right, so 11 a.m. selection show tomorrow. Dunaway, go on the record. 11 a.m. tomorrow, the selection committee says what?
No need to watch. It'll be Georgia 1, Michigan 2, TCU 3, Ohio State 4.
Lance?
Georgia 1, Michigan 2, Ohio State 3, TCU 4.
I think they're going to keep it the way Dunaway had it, assuming Georgia and Michigan win. Assuming those 2 things, I think it stays the same. Jaden Daniels slow getting up, by the way, a little bit banged up in this game already.
Then watch out, because Max Duggan was slow getting up all day, and then he kicked their ass when he got up.
Hey, boy's got some dog in him, man. I like him.
He does.
All right, that's going to do it. Culver's postgame. Go get you some Culver's tonight. Highway 119 and 280 in Tattersall Park. Also, Stadium Trace out there in Hoover near the Hoover Med. Drink you some Next Round cocktails. DrinkNextRound.com. DrinkNextRound.com. Rosé Sangria. Salted Lime Margarita. Hit the Next Round store. What do we got here? New items in. That's right. Hoodies, long sleeve shirts, and more. I saw those come in the other day. NextRound.store. NextRound.store. Great Christmas shopping there for the loved one in your life. Also, give us a thumbs up, like us, retweet us, share us everywhere. Make sure you subscribe and set alerts.
Dunaway, you got any obligations tonight?
I am not. I'm in my pajamas already. I'm 2 bourbons and 3. What do we have for breakfast, LT? What were they called? Mimosas. I don't think I'm leaving. Are you? Do you
Okay.
have?
You think you can hit bourbon number 5, or you think you'll be out by then?
Oh, this is probably my last bourbon for a while. I'll need to do what the amateurs call hydrate here in a second. I've been a little unstable, to be honest with you, all morning.
Cut your bourbon with a little bit of water. You'll be fine. That's hydration.
Well, I did have the big ice ball, so this has watered down a bit.
Zach says he thinks the show is tired of traveling for the playoffs. If you don't think Lance Taylor is dying to go to L.A. for a championship,
Put us in. If you think we're tired, put us into the playoffs, and we'll see. We actually debated going to cover Georgia.
I would absolutely hate to go to Phoenix, to be honest with you, but I did want to go see SoFi.
I love Phoenix. I want to go to Phoenix.
I didn't really like Phoenix. That's my least, probably might be my least favorite stop on the whole circuit.
That's where I kicked Brown for the first time at Topgolf.
I didn't like that stadium. I didn't like how everybody has rocks for yards. I just didn't like Phoenix at all.
Yeah, there's no green.
Yeah. Lunsford says, we own the company. Jim, in about 30 seconds.
What's that emoji?
That's it.
Here, let me give you a better screen grab.
What are you
Taylor
doing?
Here you go, Taylor.
Oh, you're doing this for Taylor? All right, everybody enjoy the games. Unless something crazy insane happens, you will not see us again until 9:00 on Monday morning. It's gonna have to be crazy insane to drag.
Oh, so no 12 o'clock reaction to the committee tomorrow?
I will not be available.
We own the company. We own the company.
I do own the company, but I'm not going to be available. I'm telling you that. So, have at it.
Okay. If Alabama's in tomorrow, you guys join me here. Set your alerts. Yep. I will do one of these with all of you.
Yeah. If Alabama's in, I'll find a way to join you for some reaction.
Yeah, I'll jump on for a second if the committee. The committee will get death threats.
Reel them back in.
Well, it'll be crazy if Alabama's in, but yes. I don't expect that to happen. All right, everybody enjoy the games. We'll see you when we see you.